Everyone, good evening to Asia, good afternoon, it's not soon evening in Europe, and good morning to the US. Very welcome to this quarterly session around BIS evolution and functionality that has been delivered during the last quarter. As always, or quite often, I have Christian Gassman with me, who will walk through all the technical details. As always, I should introduce myself anyway. My name is Ulf, and I work from a more strategic product management perspective. Christian, obviously, more from a technical product management perspective. So we will walk you through this as we usually do. All of this that you'll see today, the presentation, the recording will of course be available as always. We have, as we usually do, divided this session into some details related to the upcoming, what we have delivered and what's planned, and then we have 3 demos. Let's move forward, Christian. As always, and the way we structure things, we look at user experience, integration capabilities, technical advantage, operational cost reduction, and deployment models. But you're familiar with this. This is the way we look at features, functionality, evolutions around our BIS platform. Yes, let's get into it. Christian, let's take it from there and walk through what has been done and what we plan to do.
Thank you, Ulf. Hello, everyone. Today we're going to look at the release delivered at the end of our second quarter, version 6.7.174, with a whole list of enhancements across the board. We'll look at some demos around the new features in user experience across the platform. We'll take a closer look at some new integration capabilities in the BIS mapper, and we're also going to look at our new online help system for the platform. For user experience, we have delivered, again, a large number of increments in this past quarter. In the process monitoring, we have improved our filters and improved the performance of searches and filtering. We added the process actions to some of the missing items like inbox tasks, waiting messages, failed messages, so that those can be handled like they were handled in the past, being able to continue or abort these types of events. We've also improved the auto-completion of values within the search wizard so that you have more assistance for your searches ready at your convenience. In the master data navigator, we've added the capability to compare transports between the transported object and the object that is currently in place in the system. So you were probably familiar with this also in the change request move to production tool. So very similarly, now we have this also in the transport application. We've also added a better details panel for the master data objects that replaces the tooltips we used before, makes it easier to highlight and perform searches also directly from the details. In the BIS mapping designer, we've added some improvements to the new mapping wizard to allow you to more easily define the message type options for your map. And we also added a data source wizard that allows you to mock data sources locally in the mapper, in the mapping environment, and basically use those for your maps with database access. In the community management application, we've also added some better templates, and we've added translation support for individual sheets. So let me jump right over to the system and show you some of these enhancements that I just talked about. So I mentioned that we have in the navigator a better view of the object details. So for example, select any of these objects. I have a little icon on the top here to show the details panel. So when I open this and I select any of the objects here, it will give me a view of the attributes of this object. We see here it is an entity in the integration solution with some criteria and forwarding activity. And we can now also search directly from this view. So not only do we see the details without actually opening the object, but we can also see and search for certain values here. So I can click on this little magnifying glass, and it will then automatically populate the search query, which also helps you a little bit to understand better how these searches function, right? The syntax here for the key and syntax for the value, and then obviously the search result here on the table view shows me now all the different processes in this group that have the same criteria, scheduler event. So I can use this also to understand a little bit better what these individual keys mean and how I can formulate a search syntax for those fields. This works for entities. It works just the same for communication and other master data. So it works also for, let's say, my AS2 agreements. I will again see the different search object attributes, and I can build searches directly from here. Another new feature here is the ability to change the default values for certain objects. This is interesting. For example, for AS2 agreements, if I have a team that regularly creates these agreements and works a lot on these, and I want to ensure that certain default values are always used the same way, I can add a good example here. If, for example, I prefer receiving asynchronous MDNs rather than synchronous, and I also want to make sure that my delivery URL is correctly populated, I can set these default values immediately, save them, and that way when the user now creates a new object here, a new agreement, they already have this information populated rather than having to look it up themselves in a connection sheet or something else. So I can customize these default forms in a way that it matches more what I prefer when creating any of these communication master data, for instance. Let me also take a look at the transports that I mentioned, the comparison that we have now between the incoming transport and existing objects. So you're probably familiar with the transport view. So we have added here now the compare to the actions within the transport, and clicking that will bring up a compare view very similar to the old move to production tool. So I have on the left-hand side my current data, my current object, on the right-hand side my data from the transport, and it highlights me the changes here. With the little X, it shows what information is getting deleted from the object. With the little circular arrows, it shows me what is being changed. So I can immediately see conversion log is being changed, the queue is changed, and some of the information here around the line of business is being removed by this transport.
Christian, sorry to disturb you in your flow. There were just two, because I know you're going to show a few more things. So there were two questions that were coming up. Can you just clarify again the version that you're showing right now?
Sure, it is 6.7.174.
Perfect. And the second one was related to, there was a question related to, is a default also available for process entities?
Currently, for the entities, we don't have a default yet, since these are much more complex, right? The entities have a almost like a flow design to them, so we have not investigated or analyzed how we can add a default to entity objects.
Okay, but it's good as it makes sense, maybe potentially to look into this one way or the other.
Yeah, it's probably more useful for entities to have those more as a template functionality.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, sorry to disturb you in your flow, but I thought it was good to take that. So please continue. So sorry.
Sure. Yeah, let me switch over to the control center, show a few things here. We have added functionality for a little more concise statistics when we take any of these adapters and review transactions here. We now also have the function here to show us a brief statistic, what has been found, basically give us the raw numbers for the current view, as well as for the total transmissions that are still available in the monitor. I also have a easier access here now for transmission dumps. So if transmission dumps are enabled, they are stored on the file system, which of course for cloud-based systems is getting much more locked down. So most users won't have access to the file system to pull up transmission dumps. So we have integrated that directly as a action here in the adapter overview. So I can click on an adapter, click on dump, and it will show me which dumps were collected during the time that the transmission dump was activated. So I can then simply download these or even open them directly in the file viewer in the application. Yeah. And then finally, in the processing management, we've added the capability to start and stop processing here. As you can see, currently the processing is actually stopped. So the system is receiving events, but is not processing those. This gives me the chance to show you the enhancements on the process monitor. So we have in our dashboard here a better view of processing insights. As you can see here, we basically have a overview of state and number of processes or number of events within the last hour, within the last 24 hours, or across the entire time range that is available in the monitoring history. We see here now, since I stopped processing, we do actually have 40 waiting events. I can click on here directly to get to the filter and details view. So we see here we have a number of different events, some coming from the file controller, some coming from the scheduler. None of them were processed because the engine is still stopped. And as I mentioned, we now have the ability to terminate or even restart some of these inbox events. So they are all queued in the inbox, and these standard actions are now available to manage my inbox tasks as well. Yeah, let me switch back to the control center briefly to just resume the processing. So now the engine is back to running. It will actually clear out these waiting tasks now too. Yeah, now there's only 3 left, so it'll process these very quickly. Finally, we've combined the process and event search that we kind of had as separate menu items here on the left-hand side. So this is all now combined and merged into the same view. When you upgrade your environment, or the cloud environment is upgraded to this new service pack, it will merge these and yeah, present you basically with the new view here on the left-hand side, and migrate your favorites and yeah, saved searches here as well. Yeah, so these are some of the enhancements we've made around the applications, usually focus on the navigator and process monitor, obviously as the mostly used tools, and receiving also the most feedback from you as the users.
We have another, before you, if you change back, maybe you need to show again, I don't know. But there was a question, there's a question related to, is downloading the dumps also possible from the transaction monitor or error monitor? Or is the download dump view only available from the control center adapter view?
Downloading those transmission dumps is currently only through the adapter, right? Because we don't have these currently tied back to the exact transactions. So these are dump files at a low level created by the adapters. So there's no direct link to the transaction monitor for those at this time. Yeah, but that's good feedback. It might be something we can look at, and I'll note this down.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we're good for now. So please continue.
Sure. Yeah, what else have we planned for the user experience and for our different applications? In the navigator, we will improve the entity management. Will enable action to duplicate an entire entity subtree. We're also enhancing the process monitor further. One frequently requested feature was to have an exclude term for the searches, so basically a negative or a not search. This will be added. We also will make it possible to flag asynchronous searches either as private or public, meaning you can decide when you run an asynchronous search if it is visible to your coworkers or if it is just visible to you. Within the map table manager, we'll add full text search capability, so much quicker and easier to find values across the map tables. In the deployment manager, we're also enhancing working with composite tasks. And then in the BIS mapper, we're still continuing to work on the debugging support, and we're also adding a feature to include compliance check into the test catalog. Let me go over enhancements delivered for integration capabilities now. As you can see from the list, a lot of enhancements were delivered now for authentication, authorization functionality. So the OAuth mode has support for JOT as an authorization grant. We're also supporting OAuth in the AS2 adapter. We're supporting AWS specific roles anywhere function for the S3 adapter. And then we have added new functionality, new operations for our own file transfer server and client, so that this becomes more complete offering. In the community management application, we've added integration of OpenAPI. So by importing OpenAPI or Swagger definitions, it is now possible to auto-generate forms, and basically the backing of CMA forms by an API is more easily accomplished that way. In the BIS mapping runtime, we've also added functionality to validate the target output against the schema more easily. And we've improved some of the functions around date handling, sequence and array operations and similar. Let me show you briefly.
Sorry, me again. So if you go back to user experience statement of direction, and there was a question here, the previous slide, yes. What is private and public search results related to what we have planned for process monitoring?
Yeah, this is basically the capability of the process monitor to perform searches in the background. So when you have process monitor, you can either search, let's say, in the foreground, which means you wait for the search result to appear. But you also have the ability to do this in the background. So you can basically trigger a search. It is then performed asynchronously in the background. You can even go to other tasks. And when a search is completed, you are notified and the search is presented to you in a separate overview. And this search that is now basically like a collection of processes that is kind of a permanent result, can be marked either as public, meaning you can share this search result with your coworkers for, let's say, further issue resolution and such, but you can also keep it private so that it's only visible to yourself and not anybody else that shares the application or shares your organization. That's the simple idea behind that.
Cool. Time for the next demo.
Correct. Yeah, let me bring up the BIS mapper and show a little bit of the enhancements there. In one moment. Yeah. So in the BIS mapper, I mentioned this, we have made an enhancement to validate the target output against the schema. I have a simple map here that generates an artifact output. When we run this map, we can see it creates merely a DTM segment, which of course is actually not a valid artifact document, right? It's missing the enveloping at the minimum, and so therefore it's not actually a valid output. Currently, the mapper does not prevent you doing that, but if you would like to improve your quality of your documents and ensure that they're actually valid against the output, you can enable validation. So we see in the we see basically when we enable the validation in the options of our map, and we execute this mapping now, we will see the mapping fails with a fatal error. It shows we have no interchange trailer. We have actually several faults here. The value that is in our field is not valid as part of the code list. And we see, of course, that we have missing segments, interchange header and trailer, message header and trailer. So all of these are missing, and the mapping fails. So we can control through these simple options the validation as well as our compliance level, how far we want to go with this. A validation, an enabled validation with a compliance level of error will basically fail the map as soon as it is missing or mandatory fields, or is, for example, using values that are not part of code lists. So yeah, this can be enabled, as I said, on any map with the options here that you see in line 11 and 12. Another nice enhancement is the new mapping wizard. We have the ability here now to pre-populate our options. So if I create a new map from, say, actually seeing that I need to change my share here a little bit, that you all can see this. 1 second. I hope this is visible from the screen size. So let's say we create a new map here from Edifact to CXML. We see here we have an Edifact mapping, Edifact file as an input and an XML file as an output. So far, the wizard, you're familiar with this part of the wizard. So new is now that we have the ability here now to immediately declare our options for the map. So it becomes easier to define what I would like to use from a map without having to remember those options. Yeah, for example, what I just mentioned, the validation, I can enable directly here. I can set other things. I can output encoding. I can set it to a fixed value here from the wizard screen. So this creates the declarations from a map. So if I now click finish, I will have all of this in my map template already, and I can continue with the actual map right away. So the options that are visible there are dependent on the source and target schema. So options for Edifact are different than options for XML. So they are, in that sense, context sensitive for the created map. Finally, I would like to show some enhancements for maps using data sources. So SQL access, database access. So far, we did not have a good way of mocking such a map in the local environment. We have now added a local H2 database, which is basically a low footprint in-memory database that allows us to mock the data source, any data source used in a map. Example here, a map creating, I believe, an XML output from a database table. So we see here how it accesses the data source by name. And when I execute this map now, you actually see, it creates an output. So it does connect to a data source. There is data here, ID, name, city, and it creates that output. So where does this actually come from? From the local data source. We have a number of data sources here. You see ds_md matches what I have in my map. So this is a local data source specific to this project that I can use like any other table or like any other database with tables. So I can connect to this data source now here in my mapper. And we see, it shows me, for example, the customer table. I can run SQL statements here and see the content of that table that actually then also was used as the source for my map execution. So this allows me to work locally with database content as if it is running on a server environment. I can load mock data here. I can create tables. Anything basically possible through SQL is available here as well. And the nice thing is this data source is then saved locally in my project. So when we look at the test resources, we see for each of these data sources, we have a corresponding files here, the DB file and the trace file. So that's all that is needed to share the content of this data source with my source control, my version control system, and then across to other members of the mapping team, for example, so that everybody can use these as a test data source in their mapper environment. Ulf, you see any questions for this part currently?
Nope. Please, no questions.
All right. Yep, so these are some of the notable enhancements in the mapper in the past quarter. I think these are nice quality of life enhancements and definitely also help your mock and test environment for your map development. What else have we planned in the area of integration capabilities? The debug reports that we mentioned for the mapping runtime still need to be delivered so that the runtime can create those and they can be loaded into the BIS mapper for debugging. In the AS2 adapter, we're adding support for multi-part attachments. Multi-part here means let's say the SEEBURGER specific flavor of multi-part. So multiple attachments under the same attachment ID. The AS2 adapter would then create a multi-part envelope and send all attachments in one transmission. On the platform side, we are making further enhancements for hardware security modules to expand and extend support here for other vendors. We're also adding better integration or additional integration for the HashiCorp vault for password and key credentials to allow you to use these in the master data. And generally, I think we mention this every time, we are always researching and implementing new enhancements for the connectors, for new connectors as requirements and demand comes up. For technology improvements, what have we released now? New Java runtime. Pretty much like any other quarter, there's always going to be a new runtime version with security improvements. Definitely refer to the release notes to see more details if needed. On the platform, we've also upgraded the API key generator to comply with NIST requirements. We've enabled the possibility to configure hard single sign-on timeouts. So rather than allowing the user to reuse the single sign-on session across maybe days or even weeks, it is possible to terminate those sessions and have the user re-sign on through the single sign-on provider. And then finally, the Global Help Center, we've now introducing our new online help system. So the previous library of books that you're familiar with is now migrated to a online browser-based library with a new backend and new search capabilities. I will come to that in a moment. And finally, we've released the WebSocket server adapter as a general available adapter. So being able to receive WebSocket requests and keeping the sockets open for bidirectional communication. Yeah, let me show you the new help system. A major step in improving our user experience. So from the application, from each application, we can access the help system directly through the help button. Previously, it's opened up a small library of documents, but now we've expanded this to the entire documentation library. It is context sensitive, so usually when you open it from Process Monitor, it will bring you to that book. If you open it from the navigator, it will open up the navigator. It will show you the version of the application here also directly. I think that's sometimes asked, like, what version are we actually on, right? So if you don't know, open the help system to find it. The help has different sections then for the applications, as well as for the adapters, the server base, the converter. So similarly structured as the old library. Yeah. And of course, with search capability and directly built in. So we have a search index here that supports some of the more extended search syntax. And it allows you to search both in a particular book, but also across all books at once. So, for example, AS2 certificate, if I want to learn something about certificate handling, we see now when I search, it will automatically search across all sections, both adapters in this case, but the server common books as well, and sort these by relevance. So you typically will first list those topics that include all search terms. I can limit this now, of course, to the component. I just show me a result from the apps section, or show me everything. In the home section, when you open that up, this is basically also help for the help. We see now here the different areas and how to navigate it, and then how to use the search. So it explains us here, what is the search terminology? How do I search for multiple terms? What kind of modifiers or operators do I have? How do wildcards work, and so on. So take a look at that. Once your environment is upgraded to 174, this is available to you. And yeah, explore it, try out some searches, and as always, we're happy to hear your feedback on this major migration of our help system. Ulf, you see any questions on this topic?
No, we're good.
All right, thanks. Yeah, what else have we planned in the area of technology improvements? Small refinements of the user management, improved REST API will be shipped fairly soon. And we're also working on enabling login with OpenID as another popular single sign-on mechanism. On the platform side, we're certainly working further on improving our help center, and we're also adding the WebSocket client as a complement to the WebSocket server that we just released. What have we shipped now under our area of operational cost reduction? On the platform side, we've made some enhancements in UMS related to transports of file transfer server accounts. These need to be tied to users through the UUID. So we allow now to basically specify a UUID in order to keep those in sync across different environments and make it easier then to transport master data specifically for the file transfer server. We've added more configuration options around multi-factor authentication, so to define the realm across organization, groups, and roles. We've made enhancements for some of our maintenance tools. Heapdums, for example, are now compressed to reduce the size. The backup tool also works better now with large tables. And we've also enabled disk-based monitoring for the data store instance. On the secure proxy, we've published the API. It was in experimental and is now in published state. We saw the default values that I showed you earlier for the master data objects as something that was requested from some of our customers. And the also this demoed enhancements around the transmission dumps and the transaction statistics in the control center. What else is planned here? Currently on the platform side, we will make enhancements around the API gateways to disable the payload storage there to drastically improve the performance based on our initial findings. We're also adding functionality to migrate tenants, meaning logical systems from one environment to another, or even from one logical system to another logical system to make housekeeping and let's say lift and shift migrations, maybe from on-premise to cloud or vice versa, easier for multi-tenant environments. And we're adding a better visualization, probably an app for the harmonized audit logging that is already in place, but is only available through log files currently. Finally, coming to the deployment models, what we released here, small increment only in this area, the cleanup of app instances for unavailable BIS instances. This is particularly interesting in Kubernetes and container-based deployments, where we might add or remove BIS instances ad hoc based on demand or something like that. And it is important then that app instances that become stale because they were bound to a particular BIS instance that is now removed from our system needs to be cleaned up automatically afterwards. What else do we have planned here? We're still continuously evaluating those deployment models, the dynamic and elastic scaling support, gradually enhancing this. Also the interesting area of the application or the business service as code, improving things here to allow you to version control, application configuration and such. And we're still continuing to evaluate new database variants, specifically in cloud offerings, cloud services. This concludes the presentation for today. Ulf, any further questions, or if anybody has further questions?
more as a comment that's related to technology improvements.
Yeah.
Where it's more like, can you please check on feasibility to include trigger error email on failure of polling job? Which, yeah, maybe you have some comments to that, or it was more as a.
Yeah, I'll note this down.
Yeah.
If you have a very specific need or question, it's always helpful also to have a support desk ticket opened so that we can track this. I will note this down certainly, but it makes sense for the paper trail to just have this also in our service desk.
Cool. Yeah, but it's good input. It's always good to get input. So thank you for that. No, I think that's all. We're a little bit ahead of schedule, but it's always good to give time back. No, I don't think we have more questions, Christian.
Sure. Thank you.
So, well, thank you. And thank you everyone for participating. We have the next one coming up for the final one for the year. As you all know, we do 4 of these per year. Maybe some of this will change. We're looking at always improvements, and we get feedback from you. Please continue to give us feedback and ideas on what we should and how we should present things. It's always very appreciated. You also have the community here, where many of you are already part of, but we also appreciate. We kind of, yeah. Please be part of our community, or you can work with each other, get ideas, work with peers, so on and so forth, and to discuss topics, any type of topics, and get feedback from other customers, partners, and what have you. As I mentioned, at the end of this, you always get a short survey. If there are any feedback or good feedback, please get back to us with ideas. And by that, I think we're done for this time. So thank you very much from me. I hope you have a good rest of the day, evening, morning, wherever you are. Thank you, Christian.
Yep. Thank you all. Have a nice summer. We'll see you in October.
Have a good one, everyone. Take care. Bye.